Denali National Park, Alaska. Here, breathtaking heights
difficult to see
and subarctic storms are the elements of life and death.
It's not easy to watch somebody dying right in front of you.
Up high and down low, what does it take to survive?
God, this is incredible.
This is the wilderness and the wildness of Denali. Denali National Park sits at the top of the world. Just 200 miles from the Arctic Circle. At least 28 peaks soar over 2 miles high. Hundreds of glaciers fill the valleys, 14 of them longer than the island of Manhattan. It's so hostile, no sentient being can long survive its upper limits. So extreme, the temperature can dip to minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So wild, only the hardiest creatures endure. It's no place for a faint heart. From the grasslands below to the frozen heights, Denali, the park and its preserves, cover an incredible 6 million acres. Larger than the state of Massachusetts. The crown jewel of this wilderness, one giant mountain. The highest point in North America. Mount McKinley. Alaskans call it Denali, the high one. 20,320 feet. Altitude plays a crucial role on the mountain and throughout Denali National Park. It determines what it takes to survive. And it defines 3 unique ecosystems: the taiga, the tundra, and the alpine. Each has its own code of survival. At the highest elevation, the alpine region. The towering mountains of the Alaska Range. Survival in the frost-bitten heights of the alpine is the most extraordinary challenge.
When it's bad, boy, it can feel like the end of the world.
The optimum climbing season is just 3 months of every year. But that's no guarantee of clear skies. Just below is the great expanse of the tundra. In this open terrain, predators have a clear line of sight to their prey.
In the open country like this, you need a very strong sense of self-reliance.
Here you can run, but you can't hide. At the lowest level is the taiga forest. This is the underbelly of Denali, a zone full of dense vegetation and hidden giants.
I've had some near-death experiences.
Some species in the taiga survive winter using their stored fat. Others become frigid popsicles that thaw to live another day. Altitude 200 to 3,200 feet. The taiga provides protection. Because it's lower in elevation, trees and undergrowth flourish. That's shelter and salvation for the majority of Denali's creatures. 3/4 of Denali's 37 mammals seek sanctuary here, including beavers and Denali's only cat, the lynx. The wood frog, Alaska's only amphibian, thrives under the protection of the taiga forest. The king of this domain is the largest animal in all of Denali. Here, moose can reach up to 1,600 pounds. The taiga supplies moose with their favorite food, willow. They eat up to 60 pounds per day. Bulls need to gorge themselves to survive winter and each other. Every year, the bulls must battle. The fight season is about to begin. Biologist Vic van Ballenberg sees the signs.
This time of the year, they're digging rutting pits and wallowing and scent marking, and there's sparring going on.
Over 26 years working in Denali, Vic's radio-collared 120 animals to better study moose-on-moose combat. Enormous antlers are the arsenal in this war. Moose grow them from scratch every year. As they develop, a soft, protective skin called velvet delivers nutrients to the hardening bone. After 5 months, the antlers reach full size. Come August, bulls shed their velvet to reveal giant battle-ready weapons. That signals the rut, a 6-week period when bulls fight to score and keep mates. Some winners get to breed with as many as 25 females. Today, Vic tracks rutting bulls to learn what makes the most successful warriors. Is it size? Speed? Experience? When the titans of the taiga clash, what separates the champs from the chumps? He enters a forest full of giant, combative moose at his own risk.
That bull there has been in a fight.
In the wild heart of the taiga, he finds not one moose,
Grazed there.
but 2 males. It's a face-off. The warriors begin a ritual.
That bull there, he's displaying to this one with that antler rocking display.
Each flashes his weapons. If neither backs down, all-out combat will erupt. The biggest, strongest bull usually wins. weaker bulls miss the chance to pass on their genes.
Injuries are actually common in fights, ranging from minor to instantly fatal.
As the rutting season ends, moose stop fighting each other and prepare to fight the elements. In a harsh winter, 1 in 3 moose can die of starvation. Although it's the most sheltered of Denali's zones, the taiga endures a brutal season. In this forest, creatures have adapted to survive. Big game animals depend on stored body fat. Other creatures pack on thick winter coats. But some of the most incredible adaptations are made by the taiga's smallest marvels. Here, tiny miracles hide under tree bark. This is the Upas beetle, a 3/4-inch wonder that can endure unimaginable temperatures. In a lab, down to -94 degrees Fahrenheit. When the mercury dips, the Upas's body shuts down. Signs of life disappear. But it's not dead. Freeze-protecting alcohols, sorbitol and threatol, are in their blood, part of a cocktail that keeps them alive. These compounds stop ice crystals from forming inside the cells, and they preserve internal organs. With the thaw, the Upas beetle springs back to life, no worse for wear. This is what it takes to survive, even in Denali's most temperate zone. 2,000 feet up, it's even colder. Open vistas replace forest. There's no sanctuary. It's the tundra. Altitude 1,500 to 5,800 feet. What does it take to survive here? The wide open spaces of Denali's middle zone. This is a place where carnivores are on the prowl. In Denali, there are more than 1.5 million acres of tundra, enough to cover Rhode Island almost twice. This zone is defined by a secret, so hidden that most humans will never see it. For much of the year, Denali's tundra region is a carpet of green. Yet, remarkably, ice is everywhere. It's too cold here for the ground to completely melt. That makes for a year-round layer of frozen soil called permafrost. In some of the coldest areas, permafrost can reach 300 feet thick. Only grass and plants with short roots can take hold in the thin layer of soil. No large trees at all. What these plants lack in size, they make up for in quantity. That's a magnet for Denali's grass eaters. It's a great Alaskan buffet. Regulars include the Arctic ground squirrel. Before hibernation, these rodents eat mass quantities of leaves and seeds and can double their body weight. The pika. This relative of the rabbit stockpiles grass to prepare for its winter. And some 2,000 caribou. Their #1 staple, lichen. The tundra is also a sanctuary for one of Denali's hardiest creatures, the Dall sheep. These are the only wild white sheep in the world. They are a big reason why Denali was declared a national park. When naturalist Charles Sheldon first explored the region in 1906, he was spellbound by massive flocks of the snow-white creature. He petitioned the federal government for their protection, and in 1917, Congress created Denali National Park. Wildlife photographer Craig Brandt wants to know what it takes for Dall sheep to survive in the tundra. For outsiders like Craig, it's brutal.
Anything that stands up very tall gets blasted by the wind and frozen by the cold. It would be awfully tough to eke out a living up here. I think it wouldn't take very long and we'd be down seeking shelter in the lowlands.
To find and photograph Dall sheep, Craig will trek to the rocky top of a cloud-capped peak, Mount Margaret.
It's deceptive how big this land is. There's times when you sit back and you look out there and you just think, my goodness, this place is huge.
Craig's trek is not without risk. Wide open spaces leave animals and people vulnerable. The tundra's predators include more than 100 gray wolves and more than 300 grizzly bears. 3/4 of a grizzly's diet is plant food, but given the chance, they'll tackle large prey. A caribou caught away from the herd is vulnerable to attack. Its headwear is made of bone, pitted against the grizzly's powerful jaws and up to 5-inch claws. In a zone full of perils, there's only one safe place to escape the gaze of carnivores: the rocky outcrops at the tundra's upper levels. This is where the Dall sheep live. They withstand the high winds and negotiate the rocky cliffs that are too rugged for most predators. In the cold months, when Dall sheep leave the safety of the rocky outcrops, there's snow. Those white coats are perfect camouflage. They've evolved to hide.
It looks like we found some of them here. I actually didn't know that these guys were here.
You have to be sure-footed to make it up here. Dall sheep have wide hooves, steady legs, and a low center of gravity. They eat what grasses they find, and more.
But they are doing something down there. I wonder what it is. Because they just stalled in that one spot and as a group, so there's something in there that they really like.
These sheep are actually eating dirt. That's what it takes to survive in Denali at this level. The ground holds salt and other valuable minerals important for bone and muscle growth. These licks draw sheep from miles around. A century after Charles Sheldon roamed the tundra, about 2,500 Dall sheep still thrive. They are ultimate survivors in the hostile tundra landscape. The higher you go in Denali, the more severe the environment. The highest elevation is the Alpine region, the towering mountains of the Alaska Range. Survival in the Alpine can take grit, determination, and luck. Altitude range, 1,000 to 20,320 feet. Half of Denali National Park is taken up by this land. Windswept and frozen, as desolate as another planet. It's too cold for plants and too dry. Almost every drop of water is frozen. Quench your thirst with too much snow, and you'll be chilled to death from the inside out. 1 million acres of the Alpine is covered by glaciers. These rivers of ice sculpt some of the most stunning formations in the Alaska Range. But there's more than what meets the eye. Pulled by gravity, glaciers forge downhill at an average rate of less than 1 foot per year. As they creep along, they carve out rock and soil, changing the shape of the valley. And these lumbering giants develop a deadly edge. Crevasses are deep cracks in glaciers. They form when a sliding glacier moves over obstacles. In Denali, crevasses can be 100 feet deep. A wrong step can be your last. Yet one creature has evolved to live down here. It inhabits the cracks and crevasses of these glaciers. It's one of the most extraordinary beings on the planet. In all of Denali National Park, there is no animal quite like the iceworm. Half-inch marvels of the natural world. Iceworms don't just live in ice, they thrive in it. They remain alive and healthy when the temperature drops to freezing. Not only do they survive, they become more energized as the mercury drops. In the same conditions, an unprotected human would soon die. No one knows for certain how iceworms survive in these conditions. But there's a downside to their powers. Iceworms are so well adapted for cold, they need it just to keep solid. Warm them up to around 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and they start to melt. Biologist Dan Shane comes to Eldridge Glacier to open a new chapter in iceworm research.
The temperature here gets well below zero. That's much colder than what an iceworm from the south central part of Alaska can tolerate.
How cold can an iceworm go? Only iceworms on temperate glaciers have been studied. Denali's glaciers get much colder. Where he finds a worm, Dan will record the temperature of the snow to help determine their tolerance.
It's just a matter of finding them now.
Bush pilot Paul Roderick saw a large colony just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I've seen them. Last time, actually a month ago when I was here, there was millions of them just right in this, at this elevation, all around the airplanes. We were just, you couldn't help but notice them.
This snow contains algae and bacteria, iceworms' primary food source. Feeding frenzies can draw worms to the surface in incredible densities, up to 1,000 per square foot. But they never sit still for long.
In the winter, they're moving down because the glacier is warmer than the air temperature.
iceworms navigate through tiny ice cracks to find ideal conditions within the glacier. Somewhere out here, millions of iceworms move silently